right. Well, hello again to all the boys and girls out there in YouTube land watching. John and Nelly of Georgia Beer Reviews back at you this evening with a special examination. Michael and I have been talking about this for a while. Just kind of worked out that we were able to do it tonight. We are looking at Witbiers. For anybody who doesn't know what a Witbier is, it's a wheat beer. And there's a lot of different styles of wheat beers. You can break it down even further and go into Berliner Weiss, Goza, all different kinds of wheat beers within that category. Really quick, we've already got Nina in the chat. Says she might have to drink a hammy to this. You go for it, Nina. I'm going to have to go back and watch Wildcard Wednesday. I had a long day at work, so unfortunately wasn't able to join over there, but I'll definitely go back and check out the playback. I heard you guys had an interesting crew over there tonight. We've got Craig in the chat as well. Hello to you, Craig. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get right into it. I'll let you go first. Michael, what are you drinking this evening?
This is called Kronenbourg 1664 Blanc, and it's a wheat beer from France, 5% alcohol, and this is what it looks like in the glass. Very hazy, I guess you'd say hazy yellow, with a nice white head, very foamy head, about an inch head, maybe.
Yeah,
something close to
I
that.
just noticed too when you were holding up the bottle, it's a blue glass bottle, isn't it?
It's actually a blue glass bottle, and when the beer is in it, you can't tell that it's blue. So it's very interesting. It looks, in other words, when you're actually looking at the beer until you pour it out, that's when you can see it's blue, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I've only seen one other beer in a blue bottle, and that's the Bud Light Platinum.
So let me give it a nose. Okay, right. I have had this before, so I'm not shocked by the nose. I was a little surprised when I first did. The nose is all peach. And John, I don't know, how do you feel about peach beers? Have you had beers that
Yeah, I've actually had a couple of wheat beers, like peach Berliner Weisses, and yeah, I think peach is an okay thing for a wheat beer.
Okay, so this one is very peachy, at least in the nose. And let me see if I get anything else. Just peach. That's all you're really getting. Let me give it a taste. Cheers.
Here's Michael. Craig, he says friggin' French beers.
Some people just don't like French beers.
I guess not.
The lead flavor is peach again, but it's not. It's more like the peach fruit than it is the skin, because sometimes you eat peach skin. This is the fruit of the in the beer. It tastes like the fruit, and you get kind of the background is kind of wheaty. In other words, you can tell this is a wheat beer. It has kind of a wheat type feel to it, maybe almost like a wheat oaty kind of thing. It's creamy,
right?
It's 5%, so it's sessionable. It goes down very easily. It's thirst quenching, refreshing. The head seems to hold up. You notice it's got nice lacing and head retention. Trying to think if we're getting anything else in the taste other than the peach. In these beers, you usually don't get too much malt either, but I guess you're getting a little bit of the hops in this too, but it's mild, a mild hoppy kind of feel. I would guess that this has to be in the really lower IBU range too, maybe less than 10. Even though they don't publish what the IBUs are, but it's not a lot of IBUs. But you get a little bit of hops in it, but it's very light, and whatever malts are in it are also very light. Let me get what the mouth feels like. The mouthfeel is also light to medium, goes down very easy, very nice. And I would recommend this beer as a starter beer if you're just somebody who wants to get into a style other than the macros. Like say you're into the macros. This is a style that I don't think would be offensive to a Budweiser drinker or a Miller drinker. Again, you have to like
right.
Peach. If you don't like peach, stay away from this. But if peach is a taste that you can handle, this would be a good starter beer for you into craft type beers. Some people might not consider this a craft beer. It's a foreign beer. But I'm with, look, Carlsberg, this one, the Youngs. If they're not considered craft beer, they're European beers. And I guess I've always had in my beer drinking history, when I was drinking macros, foreign beers at that time, like Lowenbrau and Heineken and Beck's, those were your, like your treat beers at the time. And I guess now that we have craft, it's almost like the foreign beers don't get much play. But I've always liked European beers.
Okay.
So I will give you a number shortly. You can go ahead with yours.
Yeah, really quick though, you're talking about peach. That's such a dominant flavor in that beer. Just to be clear, there's no additive, no peach added to the beer, right?
No, all it says on the outside is malt beverage with natural flavors. So I don't think there's any direct peach added, but you never know.
Right. Huh. That's interesting that you're getting that, peach in a beer like that. So Craig says, his wife is French, and you can drink French beer, just don't marry a French girl. He says, I'm joking. Hopefully your wife won't watch this, Craig. Otherwise, you might be in trouble. We've also got Tommy Carroll in the chat. Good evening, guys. Don't think I've ever tried a French beer. I may have had one or two, Tommy, but yeah, not very. You don't see too many French beers around here. So, okay. Let's see. My beer is from the Bruery, which is out of Placentia, California. They make a lot of great barrel-aged beers. This is one of them. Well, I don't know if it's great yet. We'll find that out later. But it is called Wit The Funk. It is a 5.4% Witbier aged in oak foeders with spices added. So it's a barrel-aged wheat beer, which sounds very interesting. Pretty much anything barrel-aged is going to, get my attention. And right off the top of my head, I don't think I've ever had a wheat beer aged in oak barrels. Well, actually, I take that back. I did have the Bourbon County wheat wine, which was aged in bourbon barrels. But this is not a bourbon barrel. It's just like straight oak aging. So that'll be interesting. The pour is a pretty light. It actually just kind of looks like a standard lager, like a Budweiser or a Coors Banquet. The head, it did pour with about a half finger's worth of head, but it's had time to die down, and there's just nothing left. There's some nice bubbles going up the glass, though.
Would you call that amber color?
I would call it like a slightly hazy golden color.
Okay.
Amber is a little bit darker. It's not quite dark enough for me to want to classify it as amber. So the aroma, you can definitely tell that this is a sour type beer. In addition to being aged in oak barrels, it says that it's fermented with wheat yeast and Brettanomyces with their Taureau house mixed culture. So this is kind of like a soured beer. I mean, it's definitely got that sour funk on the nose, in addition to the oak presence on the aroma as well. And then you smell the wheat, like wheat bread on the aroma. And it's just got that funk to it that you get with sours and that Brettanomyces horse blanket type thing. It's a very strange but pleasant aroma for me anyway. If you're not used to sour beers or oak aged beers, you might be really turned off by this, but I'm digging the aroma. It smells very good. Definitely a unique aroma. So cheers. Go ahead and get into it.
Hope you enjoy it.
Woo! That is a very tart beer. So immediately I'm getting hit with that sour punch. It's nice and bready, so malty in the sense that I'm getting a ton of wheat bread notes in the middle. It's got a little bit of that funk, that Brettanomyces horse blanket hay type thing going on in the middle. That's such a difficult thing. If you've never had a beer with Brettanomyces, it's very difficult to describe. You always hear people saying horse blanket hay, that type of thing. That's really probably the best way that you can describe it. And you may think that would be unpleasant, but in a beer like this, I think it's perfect for the style.
Is it yeast? Are you getting yeast in it?
Yeah, it's yeasty, it's funky, it's sour, it's oaky. The wood presence in this as well kind of complements the Brettanomyces funkiness to it. It's very interesting. The body with this, it's 5.4% alcohol, so it's very light bodied. So if you want like a sour, bready beer that's relatively sessionable, this would be one to go for. Very similar. It's very similar to like a Goza, because Gozas are very light, crisp, and sessionable. This is very light, crisp, and sessionable, but this is definitely more on the funky side than a traditional Goza. Plus, this one doesn't have the salt and the sea salt and coriander that you get with a lot of the Gozas, so you don't have those additives. It's more natural. The barrel aging though, and the yeast that they're using are what make it so unique. It's a winner. I mean, I've never been disappointed with a beer from the brewery. They make a lot of great stuff. They do a lot of sours, and they apparently they have a house mix, they call it, a house mixed culture that they use in a lot of their sour beers. So they're using that same mix in here, and I think it works really well. The finish with this is relatively dry as well and crisp, so it's very sessionable from that standpoint as well, because as soon as you get done with it, as soon as you swallow it down, it just drops off. And because it has that super drying finish, it makes you want to go right back in for another sip, which I'm going to do right now.
What was the price point? Did you get this as a single?
The 4-pack of 16-ounce cans was $12.99.
That sounds okay for a Brettanomyces kind of beer.
Brettanomyces barrel-aged beer that's very well done. I think the price is pretty fair, and I think, as good as this is, I'd say it's definitely worth it. And the uniqueness of this is really, I can't think of another beer that's quite like this one, because of the funk that you're getting from the Brettanomyces, and then the fact that they aged it in oak barrels. Just really adds that extra depth of flavor, that extra dimension to it that you wouldn't get with a standard wit beer. So I'm really digging it, and I'll give you a rating here shortly. Really quick, I want to go back to the chat. We got a ton of great comments in the chat here. Let's see. Beerman is in the chat. He is okay. So he's a home brewer, and I guess he's talking about
German Hefeweizen.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That sounds awesome, beer man. And he's also had the Wit the Funk. That's right. He's out west, and the brewery is out of California, so I'm sure he gets all of the brewery beers out there. Yeah, very, very good beer man. I'm glad you got to try it. Funky and delicious at the same time. Craig says funky beer, and he would like to say cheers to both of us fine gentlemen. Well, cheers to you, Craig. And Nina says cheers to the funk. Craig says funking right. And here's Sut. Speaking of Sut, I'm going to have to go back and watch you on Wildcard Wednesday, Sut. Unfortunately, I missed it, but he says he's having a hams now. I had to cut that roast. I guess he's got a roast working. And Craig is drinking the 200th Guinness Anniversary Stout. I've had that. It's good, but it's hard to beat that Foreign Extra Stout, Craig. That 7% Foreign Extra Stout is probably one of the best. Well, it's definitely the best Guinness Stout, in my opinion. And it's got a barrel-aged flavor to it, even though it's not barrel-aged. Let's see. Nina is asking if there's a common macro that anyone would describe as sour. Oh, that's a good question.
I can't think of anything offhand.
I've had some macros that have been past date that have given me a sour effect. But if you're drinking like just your standard like Bud, Miller, Coors, even the cheap stuff, PBR, Old Milwaukee, all of those big name macro beers that are readily available, when they're fresh, you wouldn't get that. But like I said, if you get something that's past its prime, you might get a little sourness to it. Obviously, that's not what the brewer intended, but I have had that happen before. But yeah, as far as like a sourness to a macro type beer, in general, I would say no.
John, did you get a chance to look at Malty Monday to see the German barley wines that Bumpy did?
I watched some of it, but yeah, I couldn't join because I did not find a barley wine.
I didn't have one either. And it looks like I'm going to get closed out again this week. He did put in the quad for me, but everybody's voting for the Irish Red or the, what was the other one? The Kolsch. Are both right now they're tied. And it'll probably come out soon because he usually does it after Stout Sunday, after Wild Card Wednesday is done. He did not appear tonight. Right. He sometimes comes on Wild Card. He was not there tonight, Bumpy. So we'll hear. I don't have either style. I had the quadruple, but nobody voted for it. So
yeah, that would have probably been my vote. The quad.
It's the only one I had. And I still have the black IPA, which I tried to get in last week. It came in tied, but since he had the German barley wine, that's the way they went, which is, I guess, okay. I'd like to get back on. I like his people. I like Beer Man and the other people who appear on his show. Miscellaneous.
Right. And Craig says Irish. So apparently Irish Red won.
They went with. Okay. Because it was tied when I looked at it. Irish Red. I don't have that either. I guess that would be what's the American one that Miller brews now?
Well, the most popular one is Killian's.
Killian Red.
Killian's, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not buying a 6-pack of it, so
yeah. I don't blame you.
Probably not included in that. But it's funny, I was going to mention this to you also. There's another group of people. You've heard about my famous Stout Fest. It's funny how that's over a year ago now because I missed the last one. They had one out on Long Island that I didn't want to travel to, but this is Stout Fest of 2018. And a couple of people that I met there have become beer friends of mine since, through this other friend, Sean, who's the one who runs it. So anyway, they've been doing something because, during the pandemic on Zoom, which is one of these, it's kind of like It's kind of like this, except you can have 36 people doing it at the same time. You can have big groups, and they try to force you off sometimes because they're not charging you for it. But all you have to do is check in, and then you can keep going. So whatever. So there's one that they do on Friday night, pretty late. But since I didn't go on Malty Monday, I'm going to do that on Friday with them for the first time, and we'll see how it goes. It should be
okay. Yeah, that'll be really good.
You can do whatever beer you want, and wild cards I'm okay because I have a lot of styles. I just don't seem to be having the ones that Bumpy's people are voting for and stuff like that. But Mexican beer in 2 weeks on Jay's channel. Anything from the country of Mexico.
All right, that'll be interesting.
And then summer beer for July is what he said. Any summer beer. So, are you ready to give this number? You want me to go first?
I am. I'll let you go first since you started everything off. What are you thinking about the Kronenbourg?
This beer was a big surprise for me. When I first heard the different beers that were in there, my daughter told me, I was almost sure that I was going to like the Young's Double Chocolate the best. I actually liked this the best. The Young Double Chocolate was okay. You heard my review on Stout Sunday. I liked it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give this a 90, which to me is an A-.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right there at the cusp there. A-. All right. 90 out of 100.
And I like
that's pretty high for a beer.
I like peach though. If you don't like peach, stay away from this because it's peach forward, and I like it in a beer.
Okay. So 90 out of 100. So for my beer here, the Wit The Funk, it's very enjoyable. It's it's unique. It's not going to be for everybody because it does have that funkiness from the Brettanomyces. It does have a lot of the oak character from the barrel aging. The wheat bread notes are nice. That kind of, if you like wheat beers, you might be able to kind of branch out and get into this. But if you're not into barrel aging, and if you don't like the funkiness of like a Saison or sour ale, then you're probably not going to go for this. I think it's excellent. My only complaint would be that it has no head and can't regenerate the head at all with this. And even though it looks flat, it does have some decent carbonation, but there's just no head with this. And I don't know. I like to be able to look at my beer and say, yeah, that looks like a beer, and you really can't do that with this. But it's an excellent beer nonetheless. That's really my only gripe with it. It's got great flavor. It's pretty well balanced considering it's got all of those crazy things going on with it. I'm going to go with a 94. I think it's a pretty solid A, and if you've never had beers from the brewery and you can get them in your area, they're definitely worth checking out. They have an excellent barrel aged collection of sour beers called their Taureau line. They also make some of the best stouts that I've ever had. They make a coconut macaroons stout, which is just to die for. And they make a lot of barrel-aged stouts as well. So I would highly recommend checking out the brewery, not just this beer, but just, any of their beers that you might be able to find in your area. Let's see.
I was going to ask you, remember I have the other 2 Wake and Bakes from Terrapin? I got 3 from my nephew. So I had the old, which I wasn't thrilled with. It was definitely past its time. I was able to drink it, but it wasn't great. I have the other 2. Can you get another Terrapin beer so we can do another Terrapin example?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Terrapin is huge around here. I'm sure I can get another Terrapin beer.
They don't make anymore, so you can't get one of those to go with mine. But I have 2, and I would definitely try one. So
that's a stout. So I can get a Terrapin stout, and we can just do a Terrapin stout examination.
That sounds really good, because it's always good to keep one on the shelf, so when we're ready to go, we can just do it, which will be fine.
Right.
And Wednesday after Wildcard Wednesday is the perfect time for me, because I have these 2 hours plus allotted, and it went over an hour, which it doesn't always, but it did today. But we still have plenty. I still have 20 minutes, so I'm not.
All right. Nina says people taste their food first with their eyes, so the lack of head could make things odd. Yeah, it's just kind of, even though it's a wonderful beer, yeah, that's my main complaint. Just look at it. It's not very appealing.
Mine has diminished, but if you do look, it does have nice lacing on the side of it.
I was going to say, look at that beautiful splotchy lacing, and there's a little bit, like a quarter inch of a head.
There is still head on it. No, John,
right.
If you can get this Kronenbourg 1664 Blanc, I don't know if it comes in it came in this mixed pack. I don't know if you can get it separately, but even if you had to buy a 6-pack of it, I think you'd really like it, because you like peach.
I've never had that one, but I have had the standard Kronenbourg, just the white label, which I don't know. I guess that's just a regular lager that they make.
I guess I've had that in the past, a long time ago, but I haven't had that recently. It's funny, the Bitburger, which is the one, Germany's most popular draft beer, that probably of the 4 is the lowest, and yet some people rate that high if they like, German lagers. It's an okay German lager, but it's funny when you look at the price comparison, you can buy a lot of times cans of the Bitburger very reasonably. These are all the 11.2 ounce bottles, as they are always on the European ones. So you lose that 0.8 compared to the American craft beer and macros. Everything here is more 12 ounce, but that's just the way it is. At least it's not like the stouts from Jamaica that were, I think, only, I'm trying to think, remember the one I'm talking about? I'm drawing a blank on it now, but I think it was like 8.3 or something. It was really,
wasn't it just called like Dragon Stout?
Dragon Stout, and if I'm not wrong, it was like 8, maybe it was 8.9, but it was a really small bottle, and the bottle was small, so you couldn't tell. I assumed it was an 11.2 until I got home and looked at it, and it was just a long bottle, and all it was, maybe it was like in the high 8s, maybe it was 8.8. But I actually liked the Dragon Stout. It was a good beer. It's just, and that I think was brewed in Jamaica by the same people who make Red Stripe.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Jamaica, I think, is known for, the stouts. At least the local people like stouts.
Right. Which is a little Jamaica is such a warm climate, you wouldn't think that stouts would be very popular down there. But
that's true because it's the Caribbean. But I guess you can't.
Right.
The one that I did on Stout Sunday today, the Carlsberg Elephant, when you look at the replay, that was mostly first sold in Africa, and they had such a good response after 4 years, then they marketed it worldwide. But it's an interesting beer because it's 7.2. So to find a 7.2 that the alcohol is well disguised and hidden, I gave it a B+ rating. You'll see when you see the Wild Card Wednesday itself. But Jay gave it an A when Jay did. But Jay gives a lot of A's. He's a generous rater, as they say. He
is. There's a lot of A beers out there now though. So I mean, it's getting harder and harder to come across beers that aren't into the A's, just because the brewing process has been so finely tuned by most of these breweries.
A B+ is a good rating, though. It's not like you're slamming the beer. I mean, it's certainly okay. And I'm somebody who's not super lager or pilsner kind of guy, and yet I have to understand that they're brewing it to get that kind of effect and try to be fair when I rate them. But they're not my favorite style.
Right. Let's see. We've got Self213. I've never seen this person in the chat before. Thanks for tuning in. That is a very
good, strong IPA.
Tough question to answer. There's so many good ones out there. If you like more bitter stuff, piney bitter, then pretty much anything from Lagunitas is going to be 8% or up, and they're pretty, widespread, at least here in the States. So anything from Lagunitas would probably be good. High alcohol, more West Coast style. And then for like a New England IPA, Trillium Treehouse makes a lot of good stuff. Here in Georgia, we have a brewery called Wild Wheat.
Eddie Topper in Vermont is a good
Eddie Topper. It just depends on what you want. Do you want more piney bitter, or do you want more like tropical fruit, less bitter, more like hop character? But there's a ton of strong ones out there now. Most IPAs, it seems like, just regular IPAs are 6% or higher, and then once you get into the doubles, you're looking at 8% plus, and it seems like 90% of the IPAs, whether it's West Coast or more of the New England style, it seems like most of them are at least 8% now.
Right. And I think 8% is a fairly standard double IPA ABV right now. It seems, anyway, from what I've looked at.
It does. That seems to be the sweet spot for the double IPAs, starting at 8%.
I'm trying to think. Stout Sunday, you'll be back on your channel on Sunday. We'll be happy to have you back. Jay did a good job.
He did.
And Robert came on, and he was good. Did you see the playback?
I watched most of it. I actually listened to most of it when I was driving back. I just connected to my speakers through the Bluetooth in my car, and I was listening to it. So
Alex, the beer master, was there as well. And they both had amazing beers. I think they were both 99s. Alex did KBS, and Robert did some crazy
2020 KBS,
some crazy Kansas beer that he thought was amazing. Thought it was as good as anything he'd ever had. Something Shmoo. I don't even remember what it's in my book, but I mean, it was something. He was very surprised. He bought it for $4, and he said he'd buy more of them if he ever sees it again. But it was a local beer, and he was very surprised how good it was, for sure. I haven't decided for sure that I'm going to have the Youngs on Sunday, because maybe I'll look through what I do have. Maybe I have something that's 8% that I can handle. I just want to be in a position where when I do leave, I'm credible in the morning, because it is 10:30 when we start. So
right.
You don't want to blitz out, as they say, because then the day goes a certain way too.
Right. Yeah, that'll affect how your entire day goes.
I can, I'm pretty good. That I can't. You can't. It's not obvious, but I try to. I'd rather do regular stouts. In the 5 to 6% range because it's just easier on you. But it's funny. Almost all the stuff I have now is high alcohol. But I still do have 4 of the Youngs left, so I could do that again. I mean, Jay did Guinness 5 weeks in a row, and he's done the one he did the last time, the milk stout from Left Hand. He's done that 3 times. But again, it's okay because if you buy a 6-pack, you may as well use them. And if you don't have anything else, it's understandable. I haven't bought any beer other than this case. I got that one, the Sierra Nevada 40th anniversary. My daughter bought me a 6-pack of that at the co-op. But we haven't been shopping. She's been shopping for us. So we are still closed down in New York. And it's sad, but the Beach Club is at least on a delay. They haven't said for sure what's going to happen. It's supposed to open would have opened on Saturday if not for the coronavirus, but we know for sure it's not opening on Saturday.
Well,
hopefully
it won't be delayed for too long.
How close are you to the ocean where you are? You're pretty far.
At least 4 hours.
Okay. All right, so you're pretty far.
Probably the club would be like heading east towards like Savannah, and that's at least 4 hours from here. And then I think if I head south to the Gulf Coast of Georgia, that would be 5 or 6 hours. So I would say the closest would be to the Atlantic, like Savannah.
Where is Jekyll's Island? Are you familiar with Jekyll's Island? That's in Georgia somewhere, and that's an island.
Yeah, that's
coast. That might be further away than Savannah.
That's further away. I think it's southeast of here, so it's like on the Atlantic, but like southeastern Georgia.
Right.
Which I'm right in the heart of Georgia, so it's anywhere other than west is far for me. Like I'm closer to Alabama than I am a lot of places in Georgia just because I'm farther west.
What about a lake if you wanted to go boating? Are there lakes not too far from where you
yeah, we have lakes. Yeah, there's Lake Redwine. There's there's a few lakes around here.
Because that could be fun to go boating or kayaking or canoeing or just, drinking beer on the lake. If it's a public lake that you can hang out on, if it's people's property, obviously you can't just go to a private lake, but maybe there are some public ones where you can go.
Yeah, and then there's the river too. The Chattahoochee River runs through Georgia, and it's a really big river. So.
Because we're gonna miss not being able to go to the Beach Club, and it's also beer related because I usually do tastings there too. But it is what it is, and if the mayor of the city is not allowing people to go to the public beaches here, which he is not, they're not opening the public beaches as of at least in the month of May. I think make a decision maybe in June, and they will. If they open the public beaches in the city, there's no reason to think the Beach Club won't open. So. We're waiting, and there's supposed to be some decision made on Friday. We'll have a better idea about whether they're going to open it or not. But I'm a little bit disappointed because it's, to have a cabana there where you can go hang out in the sun, there's pools and the ocean. It's kind of cool and have a lot of friends, and I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully things will get better, but we'll have to see what happens.
Right.
John, do you want to kind of close it out?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and close it out really quick. I'll go back to the chat. We've got Self213 in the chat again, talking about the strongest IPAs had was the Maximus from Lagunitas. That's a really good one. Yeah, that's more of a West Coast style.
I've had that before.
Yeah, it's a really good beer. Nina says the Dogfish Head IPA 20%. Yeah, you're talking about the 120 minute, which I have not had, but I've heard mixed reviews about that one. I've heard really good things about it.
Barley wine than an IPA, though, to be fair. I've had
it. And then let's see. You need to get that? You're okay.
It's my daughter. Let you get it.
Okay. We've also got Johnny Castro in the chat. He's talking about the Victory Liberty Bell Ringer double. I've never had that one, Johnny. We got Jay Betta in the chat as well. And Nina says the closed beaches is painful. She worked at a beach club snack bar as a teenager. All the beer
you can drink. That sounds really good.
That sounds awesome. Especially as a teenager. That's like a dream come true right there.
That sounds like a great job.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for joining me, Michael, on this spur of the moment type thing. I know we've been kind of talking about it for a while, but we didn't really know when we were going to do it. Just kind of one of those things. We like doing these little spur of the moment things. Thanks everybody in the chat for tuning in, especially last minute like this. We really appreciate it.
Always great to hang out.
And we will see you all for Stout Sunday.
Take care, everybody. Have a good week.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. As you can see, I am done.